Have you ever felt the world's gravity pulling you toward hunger that never fills you, toward thirst that only deepens with every sip? What if that very craving is the chain that shackles you to a wheel spinning endlessly, while true power waits just beyond the reach of your grasping hands? What if surrender isn't defeat, but the master key? Imagine a life where every desperate reach, every frantic clutch, every whisper of more suddenly falls silent within you, not out of lack, but out of profound satiation. What shifts in the universe when you no longer lean into the wind of your own wanting, when you stand still, centered, complete, and watch as the tempest calms, not because it ceased, but because you stopped chasing it? This isn't about denial or cold austerity. It's about sovereignty. When you stop feeding the machine of lust, not just fleshly hunger, but the lust for validation, for control, for the next distraction, the next conquest, the next hit of significance, you reclaim a sacred energy, a light others try to dim with their demands, their projections, their endless need for your reaction. Jung understood the libido isn't merely sexual, it's the very current of life force, and where you direct it determines whether you rule or are ruled. When you cease pouring this precious essence into bottomless voids, when you withdraw your consent from the marketplace of craving, a profound reversal occurs. The world, accustomed to your hunger, your easy predictability, stumbles. The strings it used to pull you with go slack. Those who fed on your reactions, your need to please, your ache to be seen, find themselves staring into an unexpected void. And in that void, they feel the chill of irrelevance, not you. Ask yourself tonight, as silence wraps around you, what does my lust cost me? Not just in acts, but in presence, in peace, in the slow erosion of your soul's architecture. Every time you give in to the gnawing, to the compulsion to fill a hollow that cannot be filled by anything external, you mortgage a fragment of your inner kingdom. You trade a piece of your stillness for chaos masquerading as fulfillment. Who benefits from your endless wanting? Who gains when you are perpetually restless, seeking, reaching? The advertisers, the manipulators, the lovers who crave your dependence, the systems built on your dissatisfaction. Your lust is their currency, your hunger, their engine. But when you step off that wheel, when you declare enough, not with resentment, but with serene finality, the engine sputters, the currency devalues, and the power flows back, not to them, but to the core of your being. Your absence becomes your presence, your silence, your loudest proclamation. You are no longer a puppet dancing to the tune of appetite, yours or theirs. You become the unshakable mountain, and the winds that once howled around you now whisper, then fall still, surrendering not to force, but to your unwavering stillness. Before we continue, this type of video takes time and effort. If you enjoyed the content and want to support me, you can do so through Super Thanks. Thank you to everyone who appreciates the effort. Let's complete the journey together. Yet, this stillness isn't emptiness. It's potent density, a gathering of force. Jung's individuation begins here in the fertile void left when craving departs. When you stop scattering your essence like cheap seed, you start cultivating the inner ground. What grows there isn't for consumption, it's for sovereignty. The roots go deep, anchoring you beyond the reach of storms, beyond the seductive whispers of not enough. Feel the weight of this question. What shadow do I feed when I feed my lust? Not just the obvious hungers, but the subtle ones. The lust for drama, for significance through suffering, for the familiar ache of longing. These are the chains polished smooth by habit. Jung saw the shadow not as enemy, but as unclaimed teacher. Your compulsive desires point directly to the fractured places, the unhealed wounds screaming for anesthetic, for distraction, for anything but the raw truth of their existence. When you refuse the anesthetic, when you stare into the wound without reaching for the familiar balm of lust, the shadow writhes. It protests. It throws tantrums through your thoughts, your impulses. It sends tempters, real and imagined, to lure you back into the old dance. This is the crisis, the dark night where the world seems to recoil, not because you are wrong, but because you threaten the entire economy of craving. It depends on your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back the frantic energy others invested in controlling you, in feeding off your reactions. They see their own emptiness magnified, their own unquenched thirst, and it terrifies them. Accusations fly. Guilt is weaponized. You've changed. You're cold. You don't care. Hear these not as truths? Ask yourself, who profits from my discomfort in this void? Who insists you fill the silence? Answer the unanswerable. Soothe the unspeakable ache in them by reigniting the ache in you. This is the battlefield, not of flesh, but of psychic energy, your most vital currency. For your energy, this libido is finite, exhaustible. Every glance towards distraction, every surrender to a craving that promises fulfillment but delivers ash, drains the reservoir. Jung warned of the inflation that comes from misplaced energy, the ego bloated on transient satisfactions, yet starved of soul. You become a puppet, strings pulled not just by others, but by your own unrecognized ghosts. What happens when you finally guard this spring, when you say no, not with anger, but with the quiet certainty of a mountain refusing to move? The beggars at your inner gate, the ones feasting on your reactivity, your need to please, your lust for resolution, they panic. Their sustenance vanishes. They rage. They manipulate. They try every trick to make you reopen the gates, to make you care, to make you want again. This is the surrender of the world, not submission, but cessation of war. It stops fighting you because you stop fighting yourself. You stop the civil war between your deeper will and your surface cravings, the external noise, the demands, the manipulations, lose their grip, not because they vanished, but because they meet no answering vibration within you. Your inner stillness creates a field of invulnerability. Feel the weight of this crossroads. How much of my life force is siphoned by ghosts, by the lusts of yesterday, projected onto tomorrow, by the hunger for a past that cannot return, or a future that cannot satisfy? This psychic hemorrhage must cease. The tourniquet is conscious withdrawal, not from life, but from the draining dance of unfulfilled desire. The world surrenders its illusions to you. The illusion that fulfillment lies out there. The illusion that you are lacking. The illusion that your worth is tied to your consumption or your consumability. These false idols crumble before the presence of one who is truly terrifyingly satiated within. And yet, liberation has its own shadow, its own terrifying expanse. When the noise of craving fades, what remains? The vast, sometimes echoing, chamber of your own unfiltered being. This is where true power gestates, in the quiet, where the voices you drowned out with lust finally speak. Are you ready to hear them? To face the profound responsibility of your own wholeness? The manipulators, the energy vampires, they sense this shift. They feel you becoming opaque, unreachable, no longer a mirror for their needs, but a stone wall guarding a sacred garden. They will test this wall, probe for weakness, whisper of past pleasures, past obligations, past shames, trying to reignite the old fires. Can you hold the line? Can you endure the silence that follows their retreat? The apparent emptiness that isn't empty at all, but pregnant with a power you've never known? This is where the soul rebuilds its citadel, brick by conscious brick, using the very energy once squandered. Ask yourself, not intellectually, but in the marrow of your being, what empire could I build with the energy I currently pay in tribute to lust? What creation, what depth of love, what unshakable peace lies dormant, waiting for the chains to fall? The surrender feels like death, the death of an old identity, the death of a familiar, though painful, comfort. And from that death, a different world emerges, not conquered, not dominated. But the real conquest begins when you stop conquering, when the hunger that drove you falls silent, not from exhaustion, but revelation. What if the world's surrender isn't submission, but recognition? Recognition of a sovereignty so complete it needs no proof, no trophy, no applause. You stand anchored in the fertile void, where lust once roared, now only resonance remains. Jung's Unus Mundus, the undivided reality, whispers here. This is where projections shatter against your stillness, where manipulators starve at gates you no longer guard, because you've moved deeper into the citadel of self. Feel it, the terrifying lightness, the vastness where craving once carved its cages. This is the unmapped territory, the uncharted continent of your being, awaiting your footprints, your breath, your unapologetic presence. So ask, not with words, but with the totality of your silence, what world remains when I cease to hunger for it? And listen, not with ears, but with bones, for the answer is already unfolding in the surrender you've invoked, in the power you've reclaimed, in the life you've stopped bargaining for. The horizon holds its breath, the old chains rust, and you, finally, are not seeking, but being the axis around which all false gods crumble.